Have you ever played something perfectly? All the notes, the dynamics, the fingerings, and still somehow it sounds a bit flat. Not wrong, but the piece just is missing something. It's easy to focus on what we see, technique, accuracy, fingerings, and it's much harder to focus on the things that we need to feel. Phrasing, shaping, and timing. Phrasing shapes sounds and it turns pieces into stories. It's what creates emotion, whether that's drawing in the listener, giving the music lift or energy, or just creating a beautiful sense of calm. Without it, even good playing can sound flat. So today I want to show you how to shape your music, starting with a single scale, then a simple piece, and then something a little bit more complex. We'll also look at creating space and time for expression and how this naturally leads to better listening and more meaningful music. Every piece that you play needs this kind of attention. Start incorporating shape from the moment that you warm up. Once you know the notes of a scale, go beyond evenness and accuracy and start to add direction. So all music is either going somewhere or it's just being completely still. And your scales should have this sense of direction from the very first note to the very last. So how do we shape scales to give them direction? So a simple way to feel this is to aim to the very top note of your scale. That's your destination. And then to aim all the way back down to the bottom. One thing to avoid in a scale is starting it without any intention and trying to gain movement and momentum about halfway through. Instead, try to set the direction before you play. Think about your speed, take a breath, and start with a clear physical cue. I like to say and there, like you're pinpointing the exact moment that you're going to sort of release the momentum into the keys and let the notes go. You can try using a gentle but a slow arm motion going toward the top note to create this shape. Then mirror the same shape when you come back down. So we're going to create this motion going up and then the same coming back down. The arm leads your fingers to where you're going. The next step is getting used to shaping everything but with dynamic contrast. Start a little bit quieter, create a crescendo as you go up, and ease back down, getting softer as you descend. Aim for a full and warm tone all the way through. Think about starting around mezzo forte, increasing to forte at the peak of the scale, and then returning to mezzo forte at the bottom. This combination of direction and dynamic contrast is exactly what we're going to use in our scales to prepare us for our pieces later. On to the music itself and how we're going to shape a phrase using the same two ideas we used in our scales, which are direction and dynamics. Now there's more than one way to shape a phrase, but I want to show you a shape that you can use almost everywhere. It's simple, reliable, and it sounds natural. Let's have a listen to it first. Quick word of warning though, if you simply start a phrase, get louder and then get softer, it may sound a little bit unnatural. It may actually sound like that's what's happening, but there is a subtle difference. Instead, try to use the following shape. So start your phrase around mezzo forte or whatever your opening dynamic is, then make the second note a touch softer, say around mezzo piano. This tiny drop mirrors how musical lines naturally work. The first note is often on the beat, and so it's structural, so it's going to be a little bit more. And then the second one is usually going to be a passing note, so we're going to play it a little bit less. From there, make a gradual crescendo toward the middle of the phrase, just like we did with the scale. Let the line grow as it moves forwards. The middle is often the highest point melodically. Then taper off with a gentle diminuendo towards the end to finish the shape. Even if you apply this shaping really subtly, it adds a huge amount of variety and contour. And what's great is that this shape works across a lot of different styles: classical, romantic, modern, lyrical pieces, anything that really has a melodic line. Let's try the same shape now, but hearing it inside the Tchaikovsky. Before we jump into the second part of creating a phrase, if you'd like to have more structure in your practice when you sit down at the piano, check out my 60-minute routine that will help you to guide your practice and know exactly what to do, and you can find it in the link in the description below. Depending on the style of the music you're playing, you can also phrase with timing. This is a little bit different from a full rubato, and we can use this micro timing, as I call it, across a variety of different styles. This is about the tiny stretch and release that you can use across a phrase. It's the breath of a line, a little bit like a wave that moves in and out. You stretch the space slightly as the phrase grows, giving it time to open and gather energy, and then you release it as it falls, letting the notes sort of gently go back into the pulse. It's incredibly subtle. You're not changing the tempo, you're just letting the phrase inhale and exhale so that it feels natural rather than mechanical. This kind of shaping is never really notated in music, but there are a couple of ways to develop this sense of timing, which we'll return to later. You might also hear this described as the push and pull of a phrase, or tension and release within one. Sometimes you'll have two melodic lines that both need shaping, each with their own contour and energy. The best place to start is simply to realize the shape that you want, and then to practice those shapes separately before bringing them together. Always question when you put it back hands together whether both voices are actually sounding distinctly different. Going a step further than our basic phrase outline, start paying attention to the contour of the melody, how the notes rise and how they fall. So a good general rule would be this: as the notes rise, increase the volume slightly, and as they fall, let the volume soften naturally. And when you have larger intervals, melodic leaps, just take a fraction more time as you go up. Think of it as mimicking the physical effort that it would take if you were singing or playing a musical instrument that needs more support to reach those high notes. This is subtle timing and shaping, but this helps the phrase feel more natural, just like you were singing it. So this brings us on to the most important point, which is that these are useful principles, but the strongest and the most natural guide for shaping anything at the piano is always going to be a sung line. The piano is percussive, and it's easy to play mechanically with just your fingers, but the fingers don't shape a phrase. They need sung guidance. Singing a phrase, even quietly or internally, it shows you where the breaths are, where the phrases begin and end, and how the line should rise and fall. So this is why some performances sound natural and beautifully shaped. They follow these structures. Singing is incredibly useful, but it's not going to be enough on its own. It's easy to think you're shaping something, only to realize that it's not actually coming through on the piano. So that's where listening comes in. Be clear on the shape that you want and check that it's actually being realized at the piano. So once you start shaping your music in this way with direction, breath, timing, and intention, you notice something interesting, that the biggest thing that is holding us back from truly playing musically isn't technique, but it's the score, or more precisely, how we can rely on it. Reading the music doesn't just guide your playing, but it can slow you down. It can stop you from really listening to how the music sounds and focusing on shaping our music because we're simply too busy reading. That's why in the next video, we'll explore why reading is slowing us down and how not to get stuck in this trap.